3 weeks ago, what looked like nothing more than a messy pile of grass clippings turned into one of the most powerful soil-building discoveries I've ever experienced. No complicated compost bins, no endless turning schedules, no waiting half a year just to get something usable. Instead, a simple, almost accidental method transformed fresh green waste into rich, dark humus in record time. And here's the surprising part: it goes against everything most gardeners have been taught about composting. If you've ever felt frustrated by slow compost piles, confusing ratios, or systems that demand constant attention, this is going to change how you think about organic waste forever. This method is fast, efficient, and deeply rooted in natural biological processes that have been used quietly in agriculture for decades. Before we dive in, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who loves gardening or sustainable living, drop a comment with your thoughts or questions, and subscribe to Nature's Flora for more practical, game-changing techniques like this. Now let's get straight into it. Traditional composting relies on oxygen-loving microorganisms breaking down organic matter over time. That process works, but it's slow and requires careful balance. What you're about to learn flips that idea on its head. This method uses anaerobic fermentation, where decomposition happens in a low-oxygen environment. When fresh grass clippings are tightly packed and kept consistently moist, a different group of microorganisms takes over. These microbes produce organic acids that rapidly break down plant material, while forming humic substances at the same time. That's the key difference. Instead of slowly turning into compost, your material is essentially fermented into nutrient-rich humus in a fraction of the time. The setup is simple, but precision matters if you want fast and consistent results. Start with fresh grass clippings, preferably from a chemical-free lawn. Fresh material is rich in nitrogen and breaks down quickly under these conditions. Choose a spot with partial shade and decent drainage. Dig a shallow pit about 18 inches deep and roughly 4 feet wide. This helps contain moisture and maintain the low oxygen environment needed for fermentation. Layer the grass clippings in sections about 6 inches thick. After each layer, compress it thoroughly by walking on it or pressing it down firmly. This step is critical because it removes air pockets that would otherwise disrupt the process. Once compacted, lightly water each layer until it feels like a wrung-out sponge. Moist, not flooded. Continue layering, compressing, and moistening until the pile is complete. Finally, cover everything with a heavy tarp and seal the edges tightly using bricks or stones. During the first week, the pile begins to heat up quickly. Internal temperatures can rise significantly as microbial activity intensifies. The grass starts losing its bright green color, shifting toward darker tones, and a slightly sweet fermented smell begins to develop. By the second week, the transformation accelerates. The pile shrinks noticeably, often reducing to half its original size. The texture begins to soften, and individual grass blades become harder to distinguish. The smell deepens into something similar to silage, earthy, but distinct. By the third week, the process is largely complete. What remains is dark, crumbly humus with a rich, soil-like scent. The volume drops to about a third of what you started with, but the nutrient density is far higher than typical compost. Success with this method depends on 3 main factors. Moisture must remain consistent throughout the process. If the pile dries out, fermentation slows dramatically. If it becomes too wet, it can develop unpleasant odors. Temperature is another important indicator. The pile should stay warm during the first 10 to 14 days. If it cools too quickly, it usually means moisture is lacking or the seal isn't tight enough. Compression is what separates this method from traditional composting. Instead of fluffing and turning, you want to maintain a dense, compact structure. If the pile settles unevenly, it helps to recompress it during the early stages. Once complete, this material becomes incredibly versatile in the garden. Mixed into garden beds, it improves soil structure by loosening clay and helping sandy soils retain moisture. It also boosts microbial life, which supports long-term soil health. In container gardening, replacing up to a quarter of your potting mix with this humus can significantly improve plant growth. It holds nutrients effectively and, reduces the need for additional fertilizers. You can even turn it into a liquid feed by soaking it in water for a few days, creating a nutrient-rich solution that can be applied directly to plants. If the pile develops a strong ammonia smell, it usually means it's too wet or not compacted enough. Adjusting moisture levels and improving compression typically solves the problem. Slow decomposition is often linked to insufficient moisture or low temperatures. Keeping the pile damp and insulated helps maintain the right conditions. If you notice mold growth, it's a sign that oxygen has entered the system. Recompress the material and reseal the tarp to restore the anaerobic environment. What makes this method so powerful is its simplicity. There's no need to balance carbon ratios or constantly monitor conditions. It turns a common waste product into valuable soil in just a few weeks. It also creates a closed-loop system where nothing is wasted. Grass, clippings, garden trimmings, and plant residues all become resources that feed your soil instead of filling up waste bins. If you're ready to try something faster, easier, and surprisingly effective, start with a small batch and observe the process. Once you see the results, it's hard to go back to traditional methods. If you found this guide helpful, make sure to subscribe to Nature's Flora, share this with fellow gardeners, and leave a comment with your experience or questions. Your soil will thank you, and your garden will show it.